Hey guys, Ezra here and welcome back to another movie reviews. And on today's review I want to talk about this movie called Until Dawn, which is a movie adaptation for, or like a loose adaptation for the video game of the same name that was released in 2015 by Supermassive Games, and obviously Until Dawn is a well-known games, where it is an interactive survival horror games, and where you can make your own choices and all that kind of stuff, and honestly, when they first announced the movie, I was like, okay, I was kind of excited, because I was a fan of Until Dawn, right? But I am kind of disappointed that this movie barely has anything to do with the games, and it was like a pretty much a standalone storyline that I feel like this could be an original storyline, because there is some connection to the game here that I think is pretty neat, I think it's a good idea how to expand the world of Until Dawn, but I feel like it's just so tiny and it's just like I don't know, like I feel like you could replace it with anything else and it could be an original movie, and it feels like they just slap Until Dawn's name just to cash on the IP's name, but regardless, after finish watching the movie, I gotta say it's a really fun horror movie, I like the direction by David F. Sandberg, he is known for obviously Lights Out, and then the second Annabelle movie and the Shazam movies, and the characters itself, I think all the cast and characters have a really great chemistry, and we have one returning character from the game, which is Dr. Hill, played by Peterstormare, the same actor, and I think his character is like the connecting tissue between the movie and the game, and I think when the movie kind of reveals what happened to his characters and then like kind of have this connection to the game, I think it was pretty cool, I think it was a neat idea how you could build a franchise in Until Dawn, Supermassive Game kind of did that themselves with the Dark Pictures anthology, but they're not as good as Until Dawn, Never will be, because I think Until Dawn is like a lightning in the bottle, but I don't think this movie managed to find a way to make a sequel to Until Dawn, or I guess like wasn't exactly a sequel, but I guess like try to expand the world of Until Dawn, I think the idea in this movie are pretty neat, even though it's only like a tiny bit in the movies, but yeah, I think the concept of the movie, where the character will die, I think they can die like 13 times, and then that's like the limit, and then every single night there will be something different after them, I think that's a really cool idea, at one point it's gonna be like a slasher movie, and then afterwards it's gonna be like a monster movies, obviously like the Wendigos, becoming the big enemy in this movie, there is even some fun elements from the game, where in the game there is like a don't move section, especially when you see with the Wendigos, because the Wendigos see with like their vision is like based on movements, right? So like, I think this movie kind of did that, and it was kind of fun, where they adapt that mechanics in the movies, so they do pay some reference in the movies, but overall, I don't think this is a fun horror movies, and I think every single night when you are featuring a different antagonist or like killers, I think that was quite interesting, keeping things fresh, and overall, I think the direction by David F. Sandberg and the performance by the characters are really fun, and the kills and the practical effects of the movie is absolutely amazing, and I think David F. Sandberg, I'm still really glad that the director it has a YouTube channel called Pony Smasher, and then he also explained the behind the scenes stuff, and how to make these practical effects, how to use like the editing as a tool, to help the filmmaking. I think that was really fun, and I think he just said that once the movie came out, he will release an entire video detailing the kills and the practical effects. That was amazing. I love that, because the kills are great, and the monster design, also the Wendigos, are pretty cool. I think I like the design a lot, yeah, the movie also has several jump scares that I think some of them are quite effective, and some of them are a bit cheesy, but overall it was fine, it's a horror movies, and Until Dawn was known for their cheesy jump scares, so there's that, but yeah, besides that, I think the music by Benjamin Wolfitz is also great, but I kind of wish that he uses some of the original score by Jason Gray from the game, I kind of wish that it was referenced, because yeah, well, you got the Wendigo, so why not referencing the original score from the game, but overall I think the score are pretty nice, but yeah, I think besides that, I gotta say, man, I think my criticism about this movie is because the characters like keep dying and for left and right for multiple times, and I think there is some point in the movie where they kind of like speed things up, and I kind of feel disappointed by that, because I kind of wish that they actually features like a different location, because like that one day speed run this death scenes, you could say that, they featured like a different scenario and the different monsters and the different kills, and I was like, man, I think it would be much better if they decide to build this up even more, instead of just like speed rings through, but I understand why you do that, because like it's 13 times, obviously the audience doesn't want to watch 13 times, but overall I do think that I kind of wish that they actually took some time to explore those moments. It doesn't have to be 13 times, because it's a bit much, right? So they kind of like wrote themselves into the corner there, and I kind of wish that they built the specific scene in a really long way, I guess, and just like took their times a bit more instead of just like rushing things through, but overall, yeah, I think it's good, but honestly, I was a bit disappointed that this is not exactly a direct adaptation from the games, because that's what I wanted to see, because it gave me a reason to like revisit, or I guess like rewatching the last play of Until Dawn, like, obviously from the old YouTubers like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and PewDiePie, when I played the game back in 2015, that was really fun to rewatch that again, but it's kind of sad that the movie doesn't just kind of like feels like a very different movie, because this movie feels like could be like a sequel or a prequel or a spin-off to The Cabin in the Woods, because it is so similar to that movie, and then it has little things to do here with Until Dawn here and there, which I think is pretty cool. But I feel like besides that reference, this could have been its own original IP, or could be set in the same universe with The Cabin in the Woods, which I think is a really fun horror movie on itself, and like it's just like really weird that they said to do Until Dawn movies, but barely has anything to do with the settings and the characters, because I love the settings from the games, like the snowy area, the snowy cabin, and the characters, and I kind of wish they bring them all back, because I feel like, yes, the game itself already feels so cinematic, already feels like a movie. I agree, but I personally think that there is a way for David F. Sandberg here and the writers, Gary Doberman and Blair Butler. I feel like there could be a way for them to expand the storyline, or like trim down the storyline a little bit, for the movies, or I guess like changing the structure of the stories, because for example, Josh in the game, he's actually playing the Psycho, I think, which is like a mass serial killer, and then it was revealed that it was all a prank, but it's kind of weird in the game where he decided to prank Chris and Sam the most, even though these two has barely anything to do with pranking Hannah and Beth, so I think that was kind of weird, right? And then Mike and Jess, Emily and Matt kind of like got away from Josh's prank, which I think that's really, really kind of weird, so I feel like there is a way for them to restructure the storyline and maybe replacing certain characters and certain events to make it much more sense, and then try to find a way for them to direct I guess like adapt the storyline from the game and try to make a movie version of it, because I think that would be also interesting in my opinion, because I think David F. Sandberg is a talented director, and I feel like he could find a way to adapt the storyline from the game and try to put his own spin on it. I think, to me at least, that will be much more exciting, and certainly it's gonna make the movie a bit more longer, obviously, but honestly I don't mind that because it was from the game, right? But that was what happens, now we get an Until Dawn movie basically on the title only, and then there is some connection with Dr. Hill, peterstormare's character, which I think pretty cool. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this could be, I guess like the idea for how this connected to the game are pretty interesting, but I think it was so small and minuscule, and I was like, okay, I don't know, man. You could definitely turn this movie into a franchise. They kind of like tease that in the end, which I think, all right, fine, if they make like an Until Dawn 2, the movie, then fine, I'll be there, because I think this movie is quite fun, but I kind of wish that this was like a direct adaptation from the game and maybe put their own spin in the story and maybe restructuring the storyline. That's what I personally wanted in this movie, but that's not what happened, which is quite disappointing, but either way, like I said, the movie itself is pretty fun, the characters are great, and I think you guys gonna have a fun time watching this movie, even though again, it's not the direct adaptation, which is kind of disappointing, but I do think this movie are enjoyable enough, and then the connection to the game are pretty cool in my opinion, and then so yeah, I don't know, I think my feeling for this movie is mixed, but I guess mixed to positive, because at the end of the day, I really enjoyed the movie, you know, and I think this movie will probably receive a lot more better if this was like a sequel or like a prequel to The Cabin in the Woods, you know, because like, yeah, it's really like a Cabin in the Woods movies, you know, so I feel like they should have done that instead of like, you know, making an Until Dawn movies, you know, without the Until Dawn characters and setting, you know, because I think it's kind of weird. But either way, guys, that's my review for the movies, you know. It's pretty enjoyable, so let me know, guys, in the comment section below, you know, are you guys planning to watch this movie? You know, if you did, then tell me what do you guys think about this movie, you know, what is your favorite monsters in the movies, you know, and do you guys wish that this Until Dawn movie should adapt this storyline from the game, you know, because some people said that, well, the video game itself already feel like a movie, you know, so I think adapting that into a movie, then we're just gonna be watching the same thing, which I understand that, you know, but part of me was like, okay, but I kind of want to see that, you know, I kind of want to see the different version of the characters and the sequence of event that will happen in the movies, you know, because at the end of the day, games and movies are different, you know, so I feel like there should be some difference there, but that's not what they're doing here, you know. Are you guys disappointed that this is not adapting the storyline from the game, or are you guys happy that this is actually you know, a standalone storyline with some connection to the game, you know? So yeah, let me know your opinions in the comment section below, guys, you know, and if you guys enjoyed this video, then make sure you guys, you know, kill that like and subscribe button, guys, you know, share the videos, do useful stuff, you know, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one then. Bye.